My next guest is a social media coach, content creator, and influencer. She is on a mission to empower women to get out of their comfort zones and feel good in their own skin. You may have seen her amazing and informative how-to videos on TikTok or Instagram. Please welcome to the Living Instead podcast, Jera Bean. Hey, Jera.
Oh, hello there. Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Girl, I'm just going to be honest here. I have been a fan of yours for a very long time because you were so informative and you've taught me so much about how to up my social media game. But I logged on and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to shoot my shot. I'm going to try and get on her Instagram live. And then you brought me on and it was amazing. And then I was like, oh my God, should I ask her? Should I ask her? Should I ask her? I was like, okay, let's do it. And then I was like,
Yes.
will you please be on my podcast? And you were like, yes, girl, email me. And now we're here.
Well, honestly, I think that's the best way to be asked, because sometimes in this world of social media, we're lacking that face-to-face interaction, which is why I love to bring people on my lives in that face-to-face format and ask people to request to join me as you did versus just submitting a question. I think it's so much more interesting to have that face-to-face but also virtual conversation. And so when you asked me, because, I get a good amount of requests for podcasts, but then to have talk to you in that live format, I'm like, yeah, of course I'll come on your podcast. Like, I'm not even going to hesitate. So I think that was the best way to go about it.
Yay, I know. On top of this social media world that we live in with the pandemic, throw that in there. I feel like one-on-one person face interaction is just so limited right now. The podcast has been my social interaction, but two, it's been my let's go hang out and grab a drink and get to know each other. Like, this has been my kind of networking, which is a really weird thing to say, but it's turned into this such a beautiful thing. And I'm just so grateful you're here.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Well, I want to dive into your story because you have such an amazing testimony of how you've gotten to where you are. And a lot of it includes some hardship and some deep, dark times. I read somewhere back in 2015, you were kind of in a slump.
Yes, very much a slump. A dark time is a good way to describe it, just straight off the bat. And I really see it as this turning point in my life. But to set the scene, to be a bit of a storyteller here, if you can imagine me in 2015, which shockingly is 5 years ago at this point, that is just mind-boggling to me. But I was a graphic designer. I'd been out of college for about 4 or 5 years. I was freelance a bit here and there. I was working at startups, all in the graphic design space. And I was miserable. I had this job for a while that really mistreated me. They were paying me practically no money, which, you're fresh out of college, that's okay. But when you're also adding in the weekends and the nights and, taking 3 trains and a bus to get to work, it was just, I was overworked, which really took a toll on my social life. I really had no friends. I never did anything for fun. Sort of this turning moment that I always describe when I talk about this time period is parting my hair one day in the mirror at work. I was at a WeWork and there's a little bald patch forming on my head with hair falling out due to stress. At the time, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And didn't even really think much of it because I was under this weird spell of, I don't know, being sort of in my young 20s and feeling so almost indebted to my job in this weird way. It was like a really weird manipulative situation. And on top of that, I wasn't working out. Like I said, I had no friends. It was also during this time that I realized I was struggling from social anxiety. Fortunately, I did start seeing someone to help me with that. I started going to a therapist specializing in social anxiety. But all of these things were toppling down. And I woke up one day and I had, for about a year, I had my normal Jera Instagram account, just my personal account. I also had an art account because I was a fine art major. I was into art and all that kind of stuff. And I had a hand lettering account. I love to draw different phrases and create different texts. I still have it to this day. If anyone wants to check it out, it's Bean, BEAN _ Robin, ROBIN, Bean _ Robin. And I haven't posted on it in like 4 years, but it has all my hand lettering. And on that account, that was kind of my secret account in a way. I had a lot of creative outlet through that. And it was my first taste of Instagram community. I remember there was some girl, I don't know, halfway across the world, and we were pen pals over email. And it was my first taste of connection that's possible through Instagram. So I set the scene with this because on that account, I've been following a woman named Kayla Itzinas. She's huge in the fitness world, has a lot of programs. She has an app now that you can follow to get fit and healthy and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't follow her on my main account because I was almost embarrassed to be following someone like that because it was just sort of far out of my realm. There was nothing embarrassing about it, but it just felt like a secret to me that I was following her. And I really admired all of the transformations she posted, and it seemed like real women. So fast forward to this moment on April 4th, 2015, I woke up one day and was like, all right, I got to make a change. And I downloaded Kayla's guides that I've been looking at for a year, went to the gym, started working out. And it was that day that I also started my Instagram account, which at the time was Workout Bean. I'm now Jera Bean. And that was kind of the turning point of, honestly, the rest of my life to get to the point where I am today. So that kind of sets the scene for you a little bit.
Take me back to that moment in April 2015, where you woke up and you were like, I'm going to do this. What was the series of events? You mentioned your hair falling out. You mentioned being totally overworked. You had no friends. Did all of these things amount to a moment where you were just like, I'm done. I'm taking care of myself? Because in a similar journey, I got to that moment where there were all these things piling up and I didn't really realize how much stress I was carrying. And back to what you said, I think in your early 20s, you reason with yourself to like, well, if I just work really, really hard and I run myself into the ground and I totally pour out my cup, it's going to get me somewhere in this life. Like in my 30s, 40s, 50s, it's going to get me to that yacht that I want, or it's going to get me to that whatever. But then you end up burning out, and it takes a lot of strength to have that click, that moment where you're just like, whoa, what is happening?
I think, because I do look back to this moment, and I know that it's April 4th because it was the first day that I posted a photo on my account. So that's why I have that date ingrained in my memory. And I would like to say, oh yeah, it was this profound moment where I just woke up and was like, I must make a change. I have to do something for myself. And looking back on it now, I see that's what it was. At the time, I really think there was some sort of subconscious moment, maybe something, a push from the universe that led me to that. And so it wasn't necessarily like, oh, wow, I gotta make a change. It just felt like the right decision. Like, okay, you know what? I've been following this woman forever. I'm interested. I'm going to download her guides and just go to the gym. So it wasn't this big moment, but looking back on it now, I realized there was some sort of bigger undercurrent happening there, even though if my like full conscious didn't quite acknowledge that in that moment.
Right. You were following the tiny breadcrumbs of, wait a minute,
Yes.
Why don't I just put myself first and do things that make me feel good?
Yeah, what a concept, right?
What a concept. Oh my goodness. I know for me personally, I got caught up in this was about when I was 25 years old. I'm 29 now. And you get into this realm, especially here for me in the music industry, where I had all these people around me and people telling me what to do. If I just check these boxes and I do these things, if you look this way, if you make this kind of sound, if you do this, like giving you all of those opinions, which it's really, really hard sometimes to decipher which ones you should listen to and which ones not to listen to.
Yeah.
And I realized that I needed to, just like you, dive into therapy, get to know myself better, which I thought I knew myself fine. It was whatever. It's like I'm just existing and I just am who I am, right? But there were so many tools that I didn't have moving forward to navigate myself through this world of like, wait a minute, I'm letting a lot in on a constant daily basis through social media, people's opinions. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, I don't have any time for myself and what I actually feel or who I am.
It's a good realization. And to add on that, what you were saying earlier about these other people and opinions and things, one specific thing that latched me on to staying where I was at the time, like an external force, is that since I was one of the first people in the company, I had equity and it was going to like fully vest if I stayed to a certain time. And so when you're in your early 20s, like these things are foreign concept, like taxes and self-employment and what a 1099, like what is all this crap? So in my mind, I had this cage of, equity, if I just stick it out another 2 years. And what's crazy is that they don't exist and that equity would have been nothing had I stayed. So just, like you said, these people telling you what to do or things like equity or people's opinions, you have to trust yourself in the moment and this bigger prize that you might see, if I stick with it till I'm 30 or stick with it till my equity vests, it's not worth your mental health and well-being.
Right. We can plan for the future and try to plan out our life, but life can take so many turns. And I think in my early 20s, and it sounds like you as well, your 20s are hard, man. You're just trying to get out of school and get your job and then figure out your passions and then figure out actually what you want for your life. Because I thought my life was going to look totally different. But when I moved to Nashville and I kind of hit all those ups and downs, your life completely just changes direction and form. which you absolutely had a change in direction and form. And I just love how you were kind of like this phoenix that rose from the ashes.
Ooh, thank you. I like that.
I started investing in TikTok over this pandemic just because, I don't know, TikTok was like a foreign land to me for a minute. And then I really invested and you kept popping up and I loved your content, man. Like I was just like, I'm learning so much from you. And so you hit the moment where you are downloading these guides, you're going to the gym, you're starting to do things for yourself. When did you realize your voice on social media was one that was needed and people were hungry for your voice and your message?
I think it happened fairly early on. And it was when I realized that by being myself on social media, that was all I really needed to do to begin with. And it started off by being very transparent about the current topics I was talking about, which at the time were doing this. It was called BBG Bikini Body Guide. It's now called something different. That's an awful name. But by talking about this BBG program. And so if I posted about a workout and I was like, hey guys, I did day 2 and burpees. Oh my God, did anyone else die doing those burpees? Because they were so hard. My arms were shaking, rather than just saying like, hey, workout done. And people, other women would start to comment like, oh my God, I'm on week 3, but I remember week 2. And like that workout was the hardest one of the week. And so it started to click that the more, and it was fairly easy, to be honest. I'm not ashamed to say that a burpee was hard, but that kind of was a stepping stone to then saying, oh gosh, I really didn't feel up to working out today and I just had to take a rest day. I feel kind of embarrassed to admit that. And then other people chiming in. And then that led to talking about things that maybe weren't necessarily related to fitness and exercise, other things, mental health or pivoting careers or my soul cycle journey, which was a whole other chapter. But each thing that I talked about, a little bit more vulnerable that I got each time, the more I realized that people just really appreciated that and connected to that. And ultimately, as humans, we just want to know that we're not alone in what we're going through and that someone else can be like, oh, I feel you. I've been there, or I know exactly how that feels. You're not alone in that. And I think that's really ultimately the beauty of social media, whether it's as simple as, oh, I found that funny too. I also laughed at that. That's really good. We can connect on that humor standpoint, or on a much deeper level, like, holy shit, I didn't realize anyone else struggled with social anxiety. Like, this is major. I've had that several times where people have reached out and like, oh goodness, before reading your post, I just thought something was wrong with me. Now I realize there might be a name to what I'm going through. Through sharing about myself, getting a little bit more vulnerable each time by expanding the topics that I was talking about. It feels a little bit grand to say my voice was needed, but I just realized that there was a connection point that a lot of other people needed.
Yes. You have this mantra that I absolutely love, and it's feel the fear and do it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Girl, I love that. And I know personally you've really inspired me watching your videos. And when we had our Instagram live together, you said to me, here's a good tip, reframe your strategy of not look at me, but learn from me.
Yeah, I love that one. It's been one I brought up a lot recently.
It has changed the game for me these last few weeks, girl.
Yeah,
yes,
love that.
Because
I love that.
I love what you do on your social media, where you post a really lovely picture, but then you post how you got it. You post a video. It's like a little carousel, and you post the video of how it was actually made. And for me, now I have my phone in the studio with me all the time. I'm just like, here I am recording some videos. But it's so interesting that you put your vulnerability out there, right? And that's a really scary thing for a lot of people. I mean, for us in the social media realm, where we know we have to connect on such a deeper human level, I think it's in the back of our minds. It's always a subconscious thing of like, hey, I'm putting myself out there. I got to connect. But for the normal person who might be wanting to break into social media, or they have a passion or they have an idea to make a social impact, and social media is such a great tool to do that. But going back to the phrase of who am I? Like, what is my voice? And I am enough. My story is enough. My vulnerability, my authenticity is enough. And some days I'm like, oh man, what am I doing? Like, my voice, it doesn't matter. But then I have to remember, wait a minute, the only way this is going to work is if I'm authentic and vulnerable.
You bring up so many points that people in general face with social media. My students in my course just speak specifically about this microcosm of what people experience when learning social media. It's not just, here's how to post a story, this is a good caption. Like, yes, that's part of it, but the mindset part, everything you just mentioned about questioning your worthiness and showing up and vulnerability is actually just as important. And I find that showing up on social media is not just learning about hashtags and how to take good photos, but the mindset aspect of believing in the value of your story and knowing that you can have an impact on someone. Even if you don't think your story is the most profound or what your knowledge is the most profound, it still has the potential to motivate, inspire, or educate someone. So that mindset aspect, and I'm glad you brought that up, is equally weighted to the logistical, practical stuff when it comes to really harnessing the power and your power in the space of social media.
Yes, and that's what you do so brilliantly. And I know that it was not, you say it's easy. The beginning process was easy, but I'm sure you've had your days. I read a story somewhere where you went for a photo shoot and you had these lights and you you burnt this couch and it was just a whole mess of a day, right?
Oh my God. Like I really enjoy sharing these types of stories because like I said, whether it's me or whether it's you, depending on if two opposite niches, it's really all about pulling back the curtain and showing the journey and the process and not just the final result. Because as humans, we like the final result, but it's going to have a lot more meaning if we see what it takes to get there or the steps and the hardships and the ups and downs. So this part, I fortunately can laugh at this now. It was almost a full year ago, but it was the most nightmarish content creation scenario I'd ever experienced. Usually things are really good. Like my husband and I, Aaron, we go out, we usually take a photo in like 6 minutes and we're done, like 10 minutes tops. This was for a branded partnership, so a little bit more involved. I have to go through the creative brief and there's different things that are required and all that. And I was living in New York at the time and we booked out a peer space. It's a great way to just get different environments, but it's not cheap. So like I try and get a bunch of shots done when I'm in a peer space, and it was holiday themed. And so when I was shooting the shot for the specific brand, like I'm not really a holiday person. So the only holiday thing I had were these lights. And so we're in this cool space. There's this vintage couch. There's a pizza involved, all these things. Take the photo. We're sitting down. It's me, my husband, and my assistant. She's taking the photo. And we're maybe like 5 minutes in and Aaron looks down. He goes, Jera, turn off the lights right now. And my heart just drops into my stomach. Kirsten, my assistant, runs and turns the lights off. And I have seen that these big bulbs have singed individual burn marks into this for sure vintage velvet couch. And I look at myself as a very respectful person. Like I want to leave your space untouched. Like I want to do my best to be a good renter or tenant or peer space, whatever it is. Like it's very important to me. So to see this happen, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So I still had other things to shoot. I had to get through it. Like I felt this immense guilt that had happened. I emailed the people on the way home with photos. I was like, what can I do? Thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to probably replace this thousands of dollars. The couches are freaking expensive. Then the cherry on the cake, I get home, I'm like, okay, got to get these photos out. And I had deleted all the photos. So my heart just came out on the other end. And I spent 2 hours recovering some of the photos. Side note, if anyone ever deletes photos, know that you can get them back. Just don't take any additional photos.
Yes, and I read that and I was like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant to know.
Yes. So side note, keep that in mind. And then I submit the photos to the brand, and long story short, they did not accept them and I had to do an entire reshoot. So that's something, of course, I can laugh about it now, but there are things that tend to go wrong from time to time that are not just time intensive, but also costly intensive as well.
And I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Taking care of ourselves in the social media space and realizing it's not just another thing where you have to throw a picture out there because, oh goodness, it's been 2 days and whatever, I'm just going to post a pretty picture and there's not really going to be much about it, la 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 la, like just put it out there, get on the hamster wheel of social media. There is such power right now of, as you said, so beautifully pulling the curtain back and taking people along your journey with you. But also that's a really great base for you as a creator to go back to of like, okay, this bad thing happened to me, or these series of bad things happens to me. That doesn't mean that I'm not in my groove of my message, right? It just means that it was just a bad day. Forget about it, made some mistakes. That's cool. I'll make them better next time, right? The failures and the mistakes are part of the journey.
Totally. And it's funny what you're describing now, that type of scenario, like a day going wrong, like it feels crappy. But what you described, I actually feel that more in the scenario of kind of negative feedback or trolls or negative comments or people kind of disagreeing with you. It's those moments where people either, I've had a range of kind of just nitpicky and small, but those kinds of things add up to bigger things that really, really get you. And those are the moments when I have found myself kind of questioning, not like, oh, should I be doing this? But it's kind of like, I don't know. It's hard to describe when you get negativity from outside sources, especially people that you don't know coming through a screen in the form of text. That's when I get those feelings that you were just describing for sure.
Yeah, I think that's something that I struggle with too, where I'll put a reel or something funny or whatever. I'll put a post up
Yeah.
and I'll get so many great positive comments, and then I focus on the negative one.
Oh, girl.
Why do we
Awful.
do
We all
that?
It's insane. It's like this, glass of full of water and then one drip of, I don't know, food dye, and it like dilutes the whole thing. It's insane. And we all do it. And it's so easy to talk about it when it's not happening. You say brush it off. And it's true. The negativity that comes from someone else is, I really believe 99 times out of 100 really more about them and their current state than it is about you. But I'm someone with such thin skin. I'm very sensitive. I take things to heart. I think that works for me in a lot of scenarios, but it's also a bit of Achilles heel when it comes to negativity. It's a physical sensation that I feel when someone says something you just kind of one off and not really that big of a deal. It still feels like a big of a deal to me to those larger moments. So I definitely empathize with you on that one for sure.
Right. And the community that each of us have cultivated on our social medias, it's kind of our job to go through the comments and see what people are loving so we can learn, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
but you're always going to come up with those, okay, that's a negative comment. Oh my gosh, why am I reacting so much? Is there truth to this? Is there not truth to this? Like, what do I let sink in and what do I not? Yeah, it's still a work in progress for me.
Oh yeah, total work in progress. But like I said, I just try and remind myself two things: that it's about them versus really about you. And one of my favorite phrases that I love to remind myself all the time is that you can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the whole world, but there's still someone out there who's not going to like peaches.
Mm.
That's a
And
quote from someone else. But
that reminds me of that other quote too. You can be the whole package, but arrive at the wrong address.
ooh, I haven't heard that one before. I like that. I like that one.
We're doing a little quote exchange here, guys.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna put that in my back pocket for the next negativity that rolls in, whenever that is.
They just like have an automatic response of just quotes to just give people when they do a negative comment.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Oh my goodness. Well, so I recently saw that you took a few days off from social media, and that can seem like a really big deal, especially when you are a content creator in that space.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
It was great. It was great. So as I mentioned, I started my account in 2015 and stories came out and sometime in the 2016 space, I think. And since being on Instagram in the 2000 space, I probably at most have gone 2 days without posting. That changed this year. So I think when I launched my business and got married in the middle of COVID and all the millions of things that happened, there was like maybe 5 days that went without posting. And I was like, you know what? There's a million things going on. This is totally fine. So the posting, I had already gotten my feet wet with taking breaks in that realm. But I think with stories, maybe at most a day or so. And so last week, I just had a day when I got a few kind of nitpicky things and those types of things I'd be able to easily roll off my back, but they felt bigger than they were. And I was just kind of having a down day about social media. And I was like, all right, I'm taking a day off, which I have occasionally every now and then. But then Saturday rolled around, and every single Saturday I have this thing where I sing a song called Happy Saturday, and my dog sings it, and then my husband sings it, and it's a whole thing, and I do it every Saturday, and I really enjoy doing it. People think it's very silly, and they laugh at it, and I enjoy bringing that type of entertainment to people. And so I was like, oh, I got to get on stories and saying Happy Saturday. But I was like, I just don't really feel like being on social this weekend. I'm like, I'm going to take Saturday off. I'm going to take Sunday off. So it's 3 full days of not posting anything. And it felt great. I really didn't feel a pressure. I think 2020 has really changed my viewpoint on how often you need to post. And I do really see a greater emphasis on taking a break should you need it, because I don't want to be posting on social media just to post, just because I think other people expect me to. And here's the thing, I don't even think other people expect me to. I had one gal comment on my post talking about the little break that I took and saying, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I didn't even notice that you were gone. And she was saying that in a really positive way. Like, if you need to take a break, like, go for it. We're still here. So I think that was something that I already knew and felt. It wasn't something I needed to be convinced of, but it was nice to actually put that into action and feel it on the other end coming out of that little break.
Goodness, that is so profound, though, what you just said. It seems like such a small moment to check in with yourself and say, whoa, 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 I'm not enjoying this the way that I have in the past. So let me dissect this moment really quickly and figure out what's going on. Having that self-dialogue, that was something I had to learn. I had to learn to check in with myself. It had to be a tool. It had to be like, Olivia, stop. You're spiraling. Let's have a conversation. Let's go to the Olivias in the head and talk about, let's see all the logical, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's dissect this moment. And my life is not going to end if I, for example, take a break from social media. My fans are not going to go away. They're still invested. And again, I think it goes back to that confidence in your story and remembering, wait a minute, my voice matters and my story matters. And I've already got people who are invested in my authenticity, and taking a break or taking those 3 days, that is a stand in your vulnerability, right?
Heck yeah, 100%.
I love that. Well, guys, if there's anyone listening, like, if you are feeling a moment of burnout, if you are feeling tired, if you're feeling like you are not enjoying what you're doing as much as you have in the past, maybe you just need a break.
Yeah, and a Kit Kat bar. Give me a break.
Give me a break. Give me a break.
I should not be the one singing.
I got you, girl. I'll dive right in.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Well, so we're just going to end with a fun little lightning round.
Ooh, okay.
Yes.
I'm ready.
I'm going to say the first part of the question. You're going to complete it.
Ready.
All right. 3 things I never leave the house without are...
Spicy Grandpa, my dog, chapstick, and my sunglasses.
Girl, I feel you on the chapstick.
Oh,
and wait,
God, need it all the time.
What is this dog name story? There's always stories behind picking your pup's name, so I want to know.
So his name is Thatcher, actually, which is also an interesting name for a dog. But he was my foster dog back in LA, sort of 2011, and I ended up adopting him. He got adopted. My heart was broken. He was returned, and then I adopted him because he was meant for me. He's my universe dog, and his name is Thatcher. Kept the name. He was about 7 when I adopted him. He's about 16 now, and he's always been a grandpa. And within the first couple months of having him, I think I called him grandpa, but I was eating spicy tortilla soup one day, left it on the side table on the couch to go get some water, and then I turned back towards the couch, and there's Thatchy posted over the soup with his face dripping. And so from that moment, he has been spicy grandpa.
I love that. That's amazing. I love dog stories. I love pet name stories.
They're the best.
Oh my gosh. All right. If I were a superhero, my power would be...
Ooh, I love this one. To remember every single thing I've ever learned. Like, just have a catalog in my brain. So, like, I don't know if that means photographic memory, but just like, it really bothers me to know that I took this awesome art history class in high school and I loved it, but I don't remember anything. Like, that really frustrates me. So whether that is school stuff or like if I take a webinar and learn stuff there, just remember everything that I've learned.
I would agree with that one. That's a good one. My secret social media tip is...
Ooh, goodness. I feel like I have so many. This is hard. My secret one. Okay, here's one because I was just talking about this with someone. So it's not really a secret, but it's one that people don't think about. Repeatable content for stories. And so what I mean by repeatable content is kind of how it sounds. Something that you can repeat, whether that's every day, whether it's every Friday, or whether it's not necessarily tied to a specific day or time, but just something that appears a lot. That can come in the form of you always ask your audience a poll on Friday. That could come in the form of sharing a weekly roundup of articles or podcasts that you like. That could come in the form of doing a daily dance to 2000 songs. Like, it can range from something silly to something educational to something as boring, quote unquote, as showing you pouring your coffee every single morning. Now, I bring this up because one, often people are like, what should I post about on stories? So if you have at least one or a couple form of repeatable content ideas happening, that gives you a little bit of guidance throughout the week. And people, your community, your audience really enjoy finding comfort in things that they can expect. So if they know every single morning you pour a cup of coffee with a Coldplay song playing in the background, I don't know, that's very enjoyable for them. They know to expect that. If they know that every Friday you do a dance to a song from the 90s or 2000s, they come to expect that and tune in for that specifically. So repeatable content on stories is my secret tip.
Oh, I love that. And it's so funny that you say that because I went through this, maybe it was a couple of weeks where I actually was pouring myself a cup of coffee, but I was embarking on a let's learn what kind of coffee Olivia loves. And like every morning for like 2 weeks, I was doing drip coffee. So I would film myself like boiling the water and pouring it over the coffee with like a super vibey song. And then people got engaged. They were like, oh, you need to try this. You need to try that. You need to try this coffee. This is the way you need to blend the beans. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
And I actually got so many amazing like recommendations on how to make really great coffee. And I was like, wait, but actually framing it in my mind of like, okay, this needs to be something that I should plan because that's really such a good point. There's comfort in that repetition.
Exactly. And you think that something like pouring your coffee might be boring, but as you have just proven, that sparked a lot of conversation between you and your people. So oftentimes people think, I'm boring, my story isn't worthy, I'm just sitting at my desk all day. But people enjoy seeing, once again, that behind the scenes look into the mundane. I am, if anyone's watching visually, sitting right here at my desk, and this is where I spend pretty much 7 days a week for a large portion of the day. And I have to push myself on stories every day. What the heck am I going to post that's interesting besides just sitting at my desk? So it is finding those mundane moments and letting people in. And that usually does spark some conversation, just as you explained to us.
I love that. I know I visually, for all of you people listening right now, she's sitting, the room is white, but she's got an entire wall of hats on the back hung up there. And I think that is so cool. It like even just for like the story behind the hat. I mean, you know, like
there you go.
Are we in a brainstorming meeting right now? We really
I think so. Beautiful content. Let's go.
Okay, back to the finish the sentence. Each day I get older, I realize
that I get so much joy from just being at home and being really simple. If I look back to college days and partying and going out or being in New York City, because my husband and I now live in Austin, Texas, like even being in New York City or in the middle of the hum and drum and the craziness. And these days, now that I recently turned 31, I just love being at home and doing home things and being a homebody. It just truly brings me so much joy. I don't need to have a crazy life outside of these walls. So,
oh, girl, I love that. Something I would tell my 21-year-old self is
something I would tell my 21-year-old self. So wow, in college, that's really crazy. I would say the sentence is not necessarily going to come out correct right now, but it would be something around the lines of have a little bit more fun with your jobs and careers and don't get so wrapped up in thinking that you need to have it all figured out. I think that pressure that I put on myself, as we were talking about earlier, led to me staying in that really shit situation. So not that I would want anything to change, because I'm really glad with how everything is panned out. But I think if I had just relaxed a little bit and maybe traveled and not worried so much, I wouldn't have found myself in such a manipulative work situation and all this pressure that I put on myself to stay there and work so hard and etc.
Love that. And then last one, someone wise once told me,
feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes!
Yeah!
Feel that fear, do it anyway, guys.
Yeah, that was such I learned that during my soul cycle journey. I remember exactly who told me that. It's stuck with me ever since. So.
Oh yes, y'all should go read about Jera's soul cycle journey. It's one of many ups and downs, which is that's just a commonality in all of our stories, guys.
Oh yeah.
Take those low moments and love the high ones, but just it's all part of your story and it'll make you more authentic.
Yeah, so true.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, Jera, for doing this today.
Thank you, darling. It's so good to be on. I really appreciate it.